Hello. I just wanted to introduce myself and say welcome to my YouTube channel and also wish you a very, very happy new year. My name is Nia Fisher and I'm calling this channel Fishing for the Truth. This year I'm going to start video blogging. I'll be talking about anything from books, music, people, places, mindfulness, spirituality. The possibilities are literally endless. One thing I'm really excited about is the fact that I'm going to invite friends and people I know to join me and have a cup of tea and a conversation. I know that everybody's truth is personal to them, and there are things that I can learn from other people. And who knows, maybe you, the viewer, you might learn some things, or you might be comforted by some of the videos, or maybe you'll just walk away and feel a little bit differently about some things. I would really love my channel to be a positive place to come. I'm off to see a very good friend of mine, Tasha. This is Mark and he's burnt his mouth. This afternoon I'm off to London to meet a friend of mine, a wonderful man called Alim Jada. So this is my conversation with the one and only Maz Murray. Today I'm joined by lovely Alice. This is the wonderful Steve Balsamo. Beautiful Sophia Ragavelas. I'm sitting down with the immensely talented Nick Hayes. I'm joined by beautiful Parissa. I'm going to call you by your artist name.
As he was going back for a checkup, and he knew that something's not right. It was around the time that I was going for like a 3-month scan with my second pregnancy. So that was always in my head. I was like, I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to have it again, and I'm going to be pregnant, and I think he's going to die, and I think I'm going to have a baby. So that was quite a tough thing.
So that's a whole nother level, or a whole nother layer on top of everything else. The fact that he died in the January and Lily was born in March. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it might be impossible to say, but how on earth do you go through something that big whilst you're hormonal and pregnant and everything you just said about knowing that you're going to then have your baby without your dad there? Were you able to properly grieve, or were you focused solely on having to not only look after your family and Daisy, who's your firstborn, but also focus on the next birth, or so much happening at such a small period of time?
You have no choice but to get through these things at the time when they're going on. You can suddenly very easily busy yourself with loads and loads of other things. You find yourself in a strange kind of situation where people would come around the day after it happened, and those following couple of weeks before the funeral. And you suddenly find yourself as the grieving family consoling everybody else, and actually that's a lot easier to do.
Right.
So people would come in and they would instantly burst into tears, and quite rightly so, because it was very, very sad. But it just kind of made it easy for us to go, don't worry, let's cup of tea. So you then find that you're making cups in just...
If in doubt, have a cup of tea.
If in doubt, have a cup of tea.
After all of that, the social worker prepares a report on you, and it goes to a panel. The social worker goes in and speaks to them, and then you go in and speak to them as a couple, and they decide whether you're approved as an adopter or not.
Right.
So we were approved, which was really lovely. It was a really good day, and that, to that point, was about a year from when we first started.
Are you nervous on that day, when it's in somebody else's hands to say whether you're...
Yes, except I honestly felt, and this is really arrogant, but I honestly felt, after we'd been through everything and talked about it, and I thought, if they don't allow us to adopt, they have no right allowing anyone to adopt.
Right.
Because I thought we're ready. We didn't really have that time to plan how we were going to... Oh, because we thought we were going to get a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So suddenly we've got this newborn. Remember us sitting here, it being, November, middle of winter, not that late, because she was born at midday and we'd taken her home by 6.
Reasons why I really wanted to talk to you about all of this, aside from the fact that it's something I don't have any experience with, is because you've been really good with, I think is amazing, with sharing experiences that have happened to you since having Billy and being a dad, being a gay dad. Not that that should have to be mentioned, but for the purpose of this, the things that you encounter day to day, being out with a baby, and the way that people respond to you. Gosh, there are so many to think about.
One of them is, is Daddy babysitting today? Even if, firstly, it could be, the dad could be the stay-at-home dad and the mum could be off to work.
Yeah.
Secondly, even if the dad just has the child for the day, it's not babysitting.
Yeah.
It's parenting. They're parenting their child. And I think that you shouldn't reduce the role of a dad. It's sort of a weird world of this, you're incapable or you're super dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually you aren't either of those things. You're completely winging it like everyone else is.
Yeah.
Like you're just trying not to kill the baby. That's all anyone's doing, is trying not to kill the baby.
Oh gosh.
She just worked out that that when she's on the changing table she can actually get up, and there was poo everywhere. She needed to be changed as well. It was just taking a long time, and it was just... And I get this at the door and I'm like, oh, why is someone knocking? Like, I'm not...
Clearly someone's in there for a reason.
Yeah.
Not reading a book.
And then, like, I can hear her, like, humping outside the door. And then, like, so eventually, Billy's still on the changing table, so I've got, like, one hand on her, and I open the door, and I'm like, yes, hello, can I... And she's like, oh, I didn't realise you had a child. The thing is, I could tell that the rest of it was because she was embarrassed that she'd not, and I'd opened the door and I had a child. So the rest of it actually came from her feeling a bit flustered. And so she sort of went, oh, but you were taking a very long time. And I said, well, you know, this is how long it takes. And she said, well, it doesn't usually take that long, perhaps you should let Mum do it next time. Which, again, in the midst of this, when you're sort of feeling like you're not very capable, because you're covered in poo and your child's kicking off, and you know you're taking a long time, and maybe her mum... Maybe her mum would do it better. Do you know what I mean? You know, maybe she would. But I remember very specifically us being in Pret, just off Trafalgar Square, and an older lady. I could have imagined her being an art teacher or something. She sort of had lots of things. Because Dickie and I were there, and she was asking us about Billy and our situation. She was really interested in, and she just said, oh, I can tell that you're doing an amazing job. And that's all you want, isn't it? You just hope that you are.
That's where my article came from. It's me talking from my opinion, from my point of view, but also talking on behalf of my parents, because my parents are deaf, but they don't really have a voice, and basically it all sort of stemmed from an annoyed, irritated tweet that I put out in the moment.
Which was about what?
Which was seeing the increase of hearing roles that require British Sign Language, going to hearing actors, rightly so, because it's a hearing role, that don't know BSL or learn it for the job.
British Sign Language.
British Sign Language. I hope it's come across in a non-aggressive way, that it's just, it needs to stop, because I think when people choose to use sign language, they have to remember that they represent a whole community and a culture. It goes back to representation. If it's represented well, we lead a high, good example, which then can in turn transfer into our politics and make a difference.
Wow, it's so interesting. The like you say, the ripple effect. It's not what you think is going to be a conversation about one thing, all of a sudden there's like a massive umbrella, isn't there?
Yeah, and it is awkward because there is an argument on both sides, which I've been really privy to. You've seen so many times MPs going to the House of Commons and learning a bit of sign language, and there's always a bit of an uproar and a bit of a scurry about whether that's morally right or not.
Okay.
Because it's very poor representation
Okay.
of the language, because it's very clunky, it's very basic. However, you could also argue that it's wonderful because it's getting seen.
Yeah.
So, but that's in itself. But then when we discuss the industry, we have the ability as an industry to change lives and open eyes.
Absolutely.
And open the mind.
Tell everybody what it is that you want to raise awareness about today and what you want to talk about.
Early onset Alzheimer's. So obviously a lot of people know what dementia is and what Alzheimer's is, but not a lot of people are aware that it affects people from a younger age, and there's an actual specific thing called early onset Alzheimer's. My dad has got Alzheimer's, early onset.
So that's your connection with this particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
And how did he respond to the diagnosis?
It was, not well at all.
Yeah.
He was he went into a state of depression.
Yeah.
And just wasn't able to cope with it.
Mm.
He's very angry. He relates to children really well because he doesn't feel judged, and if he gets anything wrong,
That's so interesting.
he doesn't feel like he'll be embarrassed. So
because children don't judge, do they?
no, not at all.
They so take you exactly for as you are, not for how they think you should be.
No, exactly. And it's always the parents who are like, oh, who's this strange man speaking to our child?
Yeah.
But to my dad, that's like, oh, I can actually talk to someone, and you know. So I think, and I wish I could have had someone to say to me before. I wish it hadn't taken this for me to understand.
Were you in this room when I was saying about that podcast that I'd listened to by the lady, Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, the lady who had a stroke?
Yeah,
The neuroscientist. She's a brain scientist, and she'd had a stroke, and she was completely debilitated, but she could still sense and understand people's energy. Even though she didn't know what they were saying, like she couldn't understand words, she couldn't understand language, she had no sense of her own ego, no sense of who she was, no sense of who anybody else was, no sense of anything except pure energy. So when people came into the room to treat her or to monitor her, she knew straight away. And she said there was one woman, a specialist, who came in, she said, and she spoke to me and she knew that I was wounded, not stupid. And that's the thing.
Yes.
And she's the woman who has that amazing quote saying, I'll paraphrase, saying, be responsible for the energy you bring into a space.
Oh, it's so true.
And that makes me think of your dad. It makes me think of, gosh, anybody, the elderly, the young, just anybody.
Yeah.
Be aware of be responsible for your energy, because people they're not stupid.
No.
And it's amazing what they will sense when they don't appear to know anything or to understand anything. They will still be receptive to that.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that really applies to like that kind of umbrella of like invisible illness.
Yeah.
The one thing that really struck me the last time I went home was that my brother plays the guitar.
Right.
And my dad was having a bit of a stressed day, and he was stumbling over his words and couldn't quite. We could tell he wasn't very calm. And I think when we go round to his, he feels the need to sort of make it, cater after us and make sure we're all right. But he can't. My brother, he put on some old records from my dad's, and my dad was like, oh Sam, can you play this on the guitar? And my brother was like, yes. So he started playing You've Got a Friend in Me. And my dad sang every single word to that song.
Wow.
He didn't stumble, he didn't forget any words, he sang every word. And we just sat there and we were like
music is so... I'm going to get all emotional. Music is so important and powerful, and it really sort of hit home as to, I think because that's also in his long term, and it just made him feel so calm.
So tell us about the musical mentor.
It's all about bringing students, performing arts students, graduates and professionals, the best chance to be the best version of themselves.
Okay.
Building their confidence, building self-esteem, building inner belief, to be able to walk into an audition and feel fantastic, feel confident, enjoy the process, therefore bringing the best out of them to be able to give the best audition.
Wow. And this isn't you approaching this purely from a sort of life coach perspective.
No.
For anybody who's watching who doesn't know you already, tell us about your experience and your background and why this is absolutely the perfect thing for you to be doing.
Well, okay, so I've been in the musical theatre world for 20 years. My theatre experience has expanded over ensemble, understudy, and then I got lead role in Les Miserables, playing Eponine, which was just a dream role.
And when was that? That was, what year was that?
Gosh, 2003. I think it was, so a long time ago. Yeah, many moons ago. I then went on to play Sophie in Mamma Mia, and then I actually went back into Les Mis and played Fantine, which was just mind-blowing because I just had no idea that, you know, I was grown up enough yet to play Fantine.
Double box tick to have been able to play both those parts.
Yeah, and there's only a few women in the world who have done that, so that's pretty incredible. And then I went to play Rose in Brighton Rock at the Almeida with the wonderful Michael Attenborough and Michael Gibson. After that I joined the cast of Never Forget. I've always wanted to go travelling, so I put a rucksack on my back at the tender age of 30 and went on my own around the world. Having done that and then deciding to come back was a huge decision. Right. And actually I kind of thought, oh, I'm just going to get straight back into musical theatre, and you know.
Well, why would you think that? You played, you played leading roles. People knew your name, who you were.
Yeah, and I think it was a huge wake-up call for me. I mean, I was a serial auditionee. Every week I had maybe two to three auditions, but with that rejection coming all the time, it absolutely crumbled.
I was going to say, what did that do to you after having had such a successful career? And it's not like you were gone for very long.
No,
you weren't gone for 10 years, 15 years.
No,
18 months. Yeah. What effect did it have on you to not be able to get another
It was really
job?
I mean, I say hard, it was more than hard. It was really debilitating because I suddenly doubted my entire career.
I had the realisation that disease and addiction doesn't discriminate. So that's what you're so kindly talking to me about today, about your journey, finding your way to nearly what were you saying, December the 11th, 3 years?
Yeah, December the 11th, I'll be 3 years sober, clean and sober.
So, gosh, where to start? So, what was are we talking alcohol and...
alcohol, cocaine, crystal methamphetamine.
Right, okay.
Methadone, GHB.
Okay.
God, I've never actually spoken specifically about the actual drugs that I was using, so...
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, totally, okay. yeah, absolutely. I couldn't really accept that it was a problem. I went through a period of depression and I went back to my parents in Bournemouth and went to see a doctor. And the doctor asked me if I was smoking weed, and I said no. I lied to him.
Did you take yourself to see a doctor? Did anybody over this period of time?
It was my family. They were like,
say to you,
you need to see someone. Like, I'd been in this depression for a period of maybe a couple of months.
Okay, so they'd noticed.
Yeah, I became quite agoraphobic. You know, I couldn't leave the house. I was super down.
Right.
I then replaced it straight away. I went straight back into drinking.
Okay.
And I found then, work started to come again because I was well again. I wasn't in depression. I was able to go back to auditions, and I managed to bag quite a high profile job, earning some good money.
Right.
Which led me to cocaine.
Okay.
So I replaced weed with coke.
Right.
The drugs got harder. I started using crystal methamphetamine.
Right.
And GHB, which is, you know, killing people on a nightly basis here in London. So by this point, my using had turned abusive. Like I was using to harm myself. I wasn't using then for a good time. You know,
Right.
I was like using as much as I could I knew that I was sick and making myself sicker.
So at this point, you'd accepted
Completely, 100%.
that you had an illness and that it was...
I was like, I'm sick, I have a disease.
Yeah.
Before then, I didn't see it as a disease.
Right.
When I went back in, I was like, holy shit, they're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something happened, there was just this shift. Even the rehab looked different when I went back in.
This is what we're here to talk about, which is your debut album.
Oui. That sort of music on my album, which is much more easy listening, heartbreak, very stripped back, naked stuff, is what I love too.
So is that why you chose to, because predominantly this album, you've got your voice, you've got a guitar, a couple of times there's some sort of beautiful, simple orchestrations and the odd harmonica.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's literally your voice and the guitar.
Yeah, nothing.
This is for anybody who wants to get back to listening to lyrics and melody and the truth of a song without unnecessary flourishes or riffs, or it's not that you can't do them, but it's truthful. It feels like a very truthful album.
I had a very clear picture of what I wasn't, rather than what I was.
Yeah.
So I had a really clear picture of that. And I think that was because I went to theatre school.
Right.
So you are surrounded permanently and you are comparing permanently because everybody else is.
Right.
You're either, you look the same or whatever, but I just didn't look like the other girls at school. They were all very beautiful, the same body and the same hair and the same, you know, it was sort of a fashion as well at the time, you know. And I was nothing like them. But I knew that I could be funny. I knew that I didn't mind playing the bag lady. You know, I wasn't keen on being Alice in Wonderland. You know, I wasn't keen on that. I liked the ones that didn't do an awful lot, but could make an impact and get off. And I really liked that. And that literally was from when I was 9. I think the minute you aren't sincere, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. You know, I love Sting. I love people that they don't show off. They don't they don't go, I can sing this. You know, they literally, it's from there.
Yeah.
That for me is music.
That we're creating is not about, God, doesn't that sound great, or isn't that chord progression great? What's a clever little lyric? It's beyond that. It is that key to open up.
Yeah.
Or possibly a key to open up a place into somewhere else. You know, it's a.
I think music does that like nothing else though.
Yeah.
It has a power and a language of its own that can do that for people, which is incredible.
Some people write songs and you want to dance. I just want to break your heart open. That's what I want to do.
That's beautiful though. But as far as you and the biggest influences on you and the person that you're continuing to evolve to be, have your children, for example, been teachers for you? Or
every day having a teenage girl is a is the biggest lesson in how not to be a murderer. Some new stuff and some old stuff, but it's all about the song. And the music I really love is kind of the Americana thing and the kind of country thing, or the dark alternative country.
Right.
So it's all about the storytelling, it's all about the lyrics, and and just trying to get the truth, man. 3 chords and the truth. That's what it's about.
The truth. How apt for this Fishing for the Truth episode.
Yeah.
So I think that is kind of what Let Me Go is about. It's about experiencing this again and again and again, and kind of going take me out of it. I need to just go. Let me go.
Yeah.
You know, the anxiety that I've got, all these feelings, this like record that kind of won't stop playing. That is my life, and I just need some time.
And that in itself, I guess, is a subject matter that lots of people are probably going to be able to relate to, regardless of whether they're in the performing industry 100%. Or not. That feeling of just wanting to get off the merry-go-round for a while, you know, and remove yourself. You said a key word a couple of minutes ago, like a sort of buzzword that I want to talk to you about as well, which is, you said the word vulnerable, and I know we've spoken about this before. Because, when was it? It was 2010 when Dr. Brené Brown, who is a research professor, I think that's her technical term, she did a TED talk entitled The Power of Vulnerability to a room of, I think, 500 people, but it was videoed.
Yeah.
And now it has over 35 million views.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody was ready for it. And everybody, be it male or female, really connected with that subject matter. And it was a life-changing, I know it was certainly life-changing for me, and I think lots of people I know.
Definitely.
And we've spoken about vulnerability before,
yeah.
And especially this year, I think, leading up to this point where you've released your single, you were already putting the paving stones in place for this when, for example, a couple of months ago you started putting on Facebook one song a day or one...
Yeah.
And that, we talked about vulnerability then because that was a big thing for you.
So when I did that a couple of months ago, I put things out in their very basic form. Just with a guitar, just with a piano, no microphone, no bells and whistles, like literally a song
really brave.
In its most basic form, you know, and that was good for me because it made me go, I you know, if I can do that, then it's like you were kind of saying, it's like it's setting the paving stones, it's just chipping, like knocking down that kind of ego that's there going, oh, but what are they going to say, and oh, are you sure you should be putting that out like that, and oh, that doesn't sound right, you know, all these kind of things, and
to know that regardless of what anybody says, you get to the end of the day and you're okay, you're still okay,
literally, and that's,
the world's still turning, and
I think that's the thing.
This is my truth, tell me the truth, tell me my truth, tell me what the truth feels like. This is my truth.
I'd done my best at the time to accept and live with the diagnosis that had pulled the rug from under my feet and turned my world upside down. The news that I was infertile came completely out of the blue, and that's the thing with extreme shock. It impacts you in such a way that you instinctively protect yourself. I built invisible walls around me so high and so deep that it's only now I've discovered that I need some help in learning how to break them down. So that was 2014. I was suffering with anxiety. My doctor signed me off work for a week. I know a week doesn't sound like very long to some people, but the business I was in at the time, a week was a long time. I would spend every night forcing myself to walk out of my flat up to my best friend's house where her and her husband would feed me, make sure I was okay. And it was there that I had a light bulb moment and a kind of epiphany. I was watching part of a series on television called Masterclass. It was part of Oprah Winfrey's series. And in this particular episode, the incredible Jane Fonda was talking. She was talking about lifting weights. She was talking about how when we want to build muscle, first we have to tear it and break it down to make it stronger. And she likened that to the human spirit, how when we feel that we're broken, we're at our lowest ebb, we're bleeding, there, in that moment, is the opportunity to build ourselves and to be stronger than we were before. I never thought of it like that. I never thought that in my darkness and in that space that I was in, I never imagined that that could be an opportunity and a springboard to be a stronger person than I was previously. But first of all, I knew I had to walk through the grief. I think with emotional pain, we want to just push it aside, keep forging on. But what the first 4 years have taught me is that it's still going to be there. So I knew I knew I had to step off this precipice into the grief, but I didn't know how. Today I'm talking about the subject of meditation. In today's society, everything feels so fast. We have an incredible world of technology and information, but it's all instant and at our fingertips. We don't have to really wait for anything anymore. I know when I was younger, if you wanted to find out a particular piece of information, you had to physically go to the library, go to the reference section, find the book, look up what you needed, write it down, or check a library book out, take it home. Everything sort of took time. And this concept of time, that's another thing for me that meditation gives you, apart from many other things. It's time. I figure if I found something that helps me feel calmer, more positive, less anxious, then that's a big box checked. And I'm going to share with you now how I got to that place, how I discovered for myself meditation. And I figured if it works for me, whether it's technically correct or not, it may just work for you as well. Who knows? I've come off the beaten path just for a moment to sit down and tell you a little bit about this book that I've just started to read, so I'm not that far into it. It is called The Hidden Life of Trees. I just wanted to mention it because I'm walking around this arboretum and because I'm surrounded by so many incredible trees. This book is kind of blowing my mind. It's talking about the social network within the community of trees, in forests in particular. There is something called the Wood Wide Web. Studies have proven that there is a language and a communication between trees. So they communicate through senses, through smell, through visual, even through electrical signals that are passed through a type of nerve cell at the tips of the roots. Honestly, a tree is not just a tree. It's obviously a living, breathing thing. But if this book is anything to go by, there is so much more to trees than I for one realised. It would scratch the surface in explaining why there is such a powerful energy when you're around them. And maybe that's what I feel. Maybe that's what I feel when I sit underneath it. The leaves on the trees fall, it looks as if things are dying. They're not. It's just a period of regrowth, a period of rest, if you like. And I do think that there's a lot of symbolism in nature, so much that we can take from it as far as ourselves and the landscape of our own lives, to maybe look upon the changing of the seas. Time to let go of things that don't serve you in a positive way. A time to steel yourself in preparation for whatever is next in your life, and to not fear the change but to embrace it. So that's my thought process for today as I sit here in front of another incredible rock formation. It's beautiful. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was solitude, which is a word that I think people equate solitude with meaning that you're lonely. You can be alone but not be lonely. And solitude is something that I've discovered as I've gotten older, I crave it. It's really important to me. Regardless of if I'm in a relationship or I'm not, I still need my solitude. A few years ago I was on a retreat and I heard somebody say to one of the women that people spend so much energy wishing they were with someone that they miss the point. They miss the point of being single and being on their own, which is to find peace. And it's an incredible opportunity. And solitude is a real blessing, and it's something that I'm incredibly grateful for, because not everybody gives themselves that time. They say, don't they, that the greatest gift you can give to anybody is your time. And I don't mean to be with somebody and also be checking your phone or thinking about something else, but to be completely, solely there for someone. But also, it's the gift of time that we give to ourselves as well. So if you're on your own this Valentine's Day, whether it's by choice or whether it isn't, I hope that you can find some way of taking some kind of comfort from your solitude, if that makes sense. Happy Love Day, everybody!
This is my truth. Tell me the truth. Tell me my truth. Tell me what the truth feels like. This is my truth. Yeah, 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 truth. This is my truth. Tell me the truth. Tell me what the truth feels like. This is my truth.